Now, speaking of shooting from Yucatan and LeBron James talking about bigger conversations, he said that there are a lot of effing threes being shot in the NBA. Adam Silver said that they are having some conversations about the volume of threes and the style of play. Joe Mazzulla is saying, how come we only question the amount of scoring in the NBA, but we're excited about it in every other sport? People think that there are too many three-pointers being shot in the NBA. Kyle, you watch a lot of Boston Celtics basketball. They shoot over 50 threes a game. LeBron's team shoots, I think, 33 threes a game. The league average is like right around 38 three-point attempts per game. Where do you stand in the newest great debate in the NBA around how many three-pointers are being attempted on a nightly basis?
Like, when you compare those two teams, like, if you watch the Celtics play, like, those are quality shots. So, like, why would they not shoot those shots? And I wish that I could think of the person who did the incredible graph breakdown. I saw it on Twitter a couple times today, but it was basically how the Celtics are outmathing their way to beating everybody they play. And it's because of the quality of shots they take from three-point range versus the quality of shots they allow from three-point range. Now, if you're allowing a bad three-point shooting team to shoot threes, like in the Celtics are a really good three-point shooting team taking quality threes, the math is going to check out and they're going to win that game. So why would you not use that to your advantage? But like, are there too many threes being shot in general? The answer is probably yes, because there are a lot of teams out there shooting bad threes. And I'm talking guys that are just, no pass possessions, going down, pulling up because like our three's worth more than two. And if it goes in, it's a good shot. Like, that's not necessarily the answer. It's the same way that like, the mid-range has been like, equated to analytics and we're taking out the mid-range because it's a bad shot. It's like, well, no, the mid-range jumper is still a good shot if you're a good mid-range shooting player, but otherwise, like, it's more valuable to get a shot at the rim or shoot from three or get to the free throw line. So like, it's kind of a long-winded, boring way, like roundabout way to say like, shooting threes is a good thing if you're a good three-point shooting team. And if you're shooting a ton of them like the Celtics are, it's not a bad thing for the NBA because they're getting good quality shots. They're moving the ball around, extra pass, find a lights out shooter who's shooting like 40% from three and he's going to knock it down. Like, that's just smart basketball. But like, could they cut out a lot of like the no pass possessions or just chucking out bad threes because it's worth more than two? Like, yes. So like on LeBron's side of like, oh, there's too many threes being shot in the NBA. I joked with you about this before we hopped on the pod. Like, if he was playing for the Celtics and his team was generating good looks from three and knocking all of them down, he'd probably be like, I think we should shoot more threes. But like, if like, you're playing on a team that doesn't shoot the three efficiently, you're making kickouts and they're clanking them off the rim 30 times a game, then like, it's a bad shot, and I understand why fans are upset about it. So it's kind of sitting on the fence, it's kind of riding the fence. But like, the answer is that like, if your team is generating good looks from three, it's a smart shot, and it makes sense there are as many threes being shot today because so many guys can shoot it. But at the same time, that doesn't mean just anybody that steps on the floor should be shooting a three-pointer either.
So here's my question for you: Is this? I mean, we know, like, as we record this, and again, this is the last one of the year. So next time we do record this, LeBron will be 40. Is this his first like old man yells at cloud moment as a soon to be 40-year-old in the NBA? Because I'm thinking about this and I'm looking. I got the numbers for you because I wanted to pull up the league average. I said 37.5 three-point attempts per game. LeBron was a rookie in 2003-04. Do you have any guesses on what the league average on three-point attempts per game was when LeBron first came to the NBA?
In 04, I'm just throwing a dart out there. I'm going to say like 14. It definitely was not much.
This guy knows ball. 14.9
no
three-point attempts per game
all right.
was the league average.
I'll take the credit, though.
But still, there's a 14 in the number. The league leader at that time was the Supersonics. They averaged 23.6 attempts per game. So that's crazy to think that the Celtics lead the league now. They take nearly 30 more threes. The Supersonics back then would be last by a large margin today. I think every team in the NBA takes at least 30 threes per game. And that happens back then when you have a guy named Ray Allen. And I think Rashard Lewis on that team as well. And crazy to see, I don't even remember this, but my New Orleans Hornets at the time were second in the league with 30, I think 30-something. What was it? Sorry, 20.3 because nobody took 30. I know Baron Davis is a little ahead of his time with the amount of threes he took per game that season. Just to put a bow on that, he took 8.7 threes per game in 03-04. Only shot 32%. But
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's a lot in 03-04 for one player to take ahead of his time, man. I'm always going to say that, not just because he's my favorite player of all time. He was ahead of his time. But it's funny to think that this is like LeBron's first time. Sound a little grumpy about it, but I do understand, like, to a certain extent, why people are complaining. Like you said, if a team can't shoot threes and shouldn't be shooting threes, then don't shoot threes. And they're shooting too many threes. But a team like the Celtics, who they're not just shooting 51 threes per game, they're shooting it at like at a great clip. Like they could take more threes. You know what I mean? Like the Celtics are shooting so well from deep, like it's a great shot. And they always have like 5 shooters on the floor, except for the time when like Luke Cornett's in the game. And like watching them play, and it's funny, I kind of like, first I jokingly lamented, and you've sat there before too, right? When you cover a game at TD Garden, you are in the rafters. But during the finals, I was in the rafters in the corner of the floor, and it's kind of like playing like the 2K angle. You can see plays unfold as they unfold, and you can just kind of watch how Boston's offense moves and how guys get open. And this is turning into a love letter to Boston's offense. But but like there are quality shots, and if it's Peyton Pritchard or Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown or Kristaps Porzingis or Drew Holiday or whoever it is, you name it, they are getting quality looks from beyond the arc, and it just makes sense. And ultimately, it comes down to it: 3 is worth more than 2. I don't know if they're going to make any changes. I know somebody floated the idea of removing the corner 3 from the game. I'm just not big. I'm not big on changing it. Like it's a copycat league. I recognize a lot more teams are going to try to do that to keep up. But like at the end of the day, like credit goes to Brad Stevens for putting the team together that he put together, and Joe Mazzulla for the system that he's put together that allows his team to take advantage of what they do, score the ball more, and it's fun. If you don't like it, try and stop it.
And like to Mazzulla's point, like, you know, the NFL, for example, like, because he's like, why in no other league are people complaining about the amount of points being scored? And like in the NFL, like even like, you know, us growing up, like obviously we didn't grow up in the era where like they were really just like ground and pound, like power eye, like wing T, like, you know, only hand the ball off, everything like that. But like they did start to spread it out, like West Coast offense, spread offense a little bit more, like as we've gotten older. But like I do feel like, and you know, I mean, listen, one, we don't cover the NFL, or well, you partially do. I don't cover the NFL in depth like this. I don't know what the numbers look like this year, but I'm going to eye test off of what I watch on every NFL Sunday. And like, it does seem like teams are relying on the run a little bit more. Like, yes, they still pass the ball a ton, but like eventually, like it kind of comes back around. Like you have teams like the Chargers where like, you know, Harbaugh prefers to, you know, hand the ball off, try and manage the game clock, only make passes when you have to. Like it's so, yes, right now I think we are at like, especially with the Celtics coming off a championship, and like you said, like it's a copycat league, the same way that like after the Warriors won the championship and everyone was trying to play small ball, like switching everything, like all that. Like, I do think that like right now it's at its worst because we are at the pinnacle of like everybody is trying to copy like the Celtics recipe for success. But like at some point, I do think that it's a little bit more difficult to say because 3 at the end of the day just is worth more than 2. And if you can generate good looks, then like people are going to take them. But like, I do think that eventually it is going to like kind of like find its level. Like, I'm not saying we're going to go back to the days of like, you know, 2 big guys on the block, dump it in and they're going to, you know, post up and everyone's going to stand around and watch them dribble 3 times before hitting a dream shake and trying to make a layup. But like, I do think that there's somewhere in the middle between like what we're seeing right now with every team, like you said, shooting 33s a game, and, you know, in between what I just said of 2 big guys on the block. There's got to be a middle ground somewhere, and eventually it's going to come back around.
Yeah, I think to put a bow on it, I think, no pun intended, during the holiday season, but to put a bow on it, I think that what it's going to take is it not working. Like if the Celtics run into a team with, or Celtics or anybody else, because I think there are 5 teams in the league that are taking at least 43s per game. If one of those teams are successful with it and they run into a different team and they lose, then people are like, okay, this isn't a foolproof method. Like there are flaws in this method and nothing's perfect, right? Like they're not going to win every title for the rest of the existence of the NBA. So once it doesn't work, whatever works or whatever beats that is going to be the next thing that teams are trying to follow. Obviously, some things you can't replicate. You can't replicate having a Nikola Jokic on your team. You can't replicate having a Giannis Antetokounmpo on your team, or a LeBron or Steph Curry. You name it, the best player on these championship teams we've seen in the past, Kawhi. But, you know, there are certain styles and ways that these teams have built around those best players. And if that happens, if that changes, then we will see a shift. So it's just funny to see the way that people are all over the place about it. I think the game's in a great place. I'm still enjoying watching the game, and players are more skilled than they've ever been. So it's all good for me.